We're live. Okay, guys. Thank you for tuning in, and we have a brand new team of people out here. So, Puneet, of course, has been here, but making his debut on this coveted show
Yes.
is Vishwanath Nair.
You know-
Vishi, as Kapil Sharma says, right, that you did so much in life. Did you ever believe that you'll get a chance to be here?
So I'll be honest. This morning, as I was coming here to work, I was actually watching your episode from yesterday about the discussion that you're having on IndusInd Bank. And मेरे को लगा कि सजीद सर ने थोड़ा हल्का छोड़ दिया, but we will probably address that today later in the day. But yeah.
Yeah. So Vishy is of course our banking editor, but we call him Vishy, of course, with fondness, and he's a banking editor and knows all things banking, economy, finance, and therefore great guy to have today, especially since there are 8 questions that IndusInd Bank should answer logically, and we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Puneet, आप क्यों आए? Sorry.
आज मैं टाटा मोटर्स के लिए आया हूँ
Oh.
डिफेंडिंग माय
Holding the
सेक्टर
fort. मुझे लगा आज we should have gotten Rucha also क्योंकि but there is no way she can defend that sector. It's down 3.5% today.
Left
yeah,
trying to do it.
really missing Sajid sir today. Like he would rue and get into this ITs hammering today with all his might.
Yeah, but well, so okay, let's maybe just briefly talk about IT first before we talk about anything else. I mean, markets are doing what they're doing, but IT is really sulking today, right? And I think one is of course the recession fears in the US, and if the US businesses were to kind of cut down their spends, then maybe that has an impact. And very interestingly, Morgan Stanley, which has largely been a bull on IT, came out with a note saying that they believe that both earnings and valuations will have an impact. I mean, it's very rarely that I see a note जहाँ पे ऊपर से नीचे तक जितने stocks थे, या तो उसमें target price cut है, या तो उसमें downgrade हो गया. Very rare that you see this like across the board. And then of course they are saying that prefer Tech Mahindra over HCL Tech, prefer TCS over Infosys, so on and so forth, Coforge over Infosys, which is fine. But largely gashes across. So that was very interesting. So IT is suffering from that. The limited point is that for people who are bullish on IT, they say that this has happened multiple times in the past, wherein things were believed to be existential challenges for the Indian IT sector, and it's come out well. It's a great high quality industry and all of that. Valuations today upar the, there's a bit of a pullback that is happening in those valuations. For the bull's sake, hopefully that passes. And Vishay, I guess from a bull's perspective, hopefully the wind around IndusInd Bank also passes.
I mean, I don't know. Stocks up 3% today. Widely expected, of course. I was talking to Harsh earlier, and he said even a blind bat could have predicted कि आज turn होगा. सबको पता है होने वाला है. But the point that we're coming from, and there's a story on our website which our viewers should go and check out whenever they can, about the number of questions that IndusInd Bank's clarification has left unanswered, right? And everybody in the media has been trying. Some people have been successful in talking to the management on live TV. But in all of these conversations, they don't seem to be just touching the core of that discussion. The core question here is, आपको पता है April 1st से these transactions are not valid, right? By the way, उसमें भी debate है, I'll come to that later. But April 1st से these transactions are not valid. Why are you finding out only in October of 2024, 6 months after these guidelines kicked in, right? And a normal banker would have prepared at least 1 or 2 quarters before that deadline to know that whether I'm in compliance or not. चलो वो भी समझ लिया कि April 1st को ही आपको समझ में आया. But why did it take you 6 months to find out that this was a problem? It took you 6 months there. Then it took you 6 months to then come to the market and say कि देखो कुछ problem है. I mean, there's no way anybody can defend this very delayed, nearly a year-long process of informing people that there is something which is a gap, which is they like to call it a gap. I think it's a euphemism. I think it's a loss, right? I mean, essentially it's going to hit your earnings in the 4th quarter. You knew that at least 6 months before you told the market, and 6 months before that, this was not supposed to exist in the first place. So you're a year late on it. how do you defend yourself? I mean, if I was in that position, I would not be able to defend myself. I'll say, okay, sorry, मेरे से हो गई गलती, मैं जा रहा हूँ.
I'll tell you what else they can't defend. By the way, viewers, please put in the likes. If you put in the likes, we'll be able to take questions. And it will be a short one, but please put in the likes. I found it interesting, for lack of a better word, that such large quantities of stocks were sold
Exactly.
by people in
By the
power,
management, yeah.
right? And how is it that all of that happened before it was declared to the regulator or to anybody else out there?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It may be a completely kosher transaction. It just doesn't smell right.
I mean, it's the price is very, very important, right? Like as Harsh said, you sold these stocks at the peak of the price, and since then your price has dropped massively, right? Last evening it closed at what, 656.
Yeah.
Today it's about 700, but you sold it at 1700. So you know.
1520, 1534 or thereabouts, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
High was 1567.
1567.
Yeah.
So it's unbelievable that you would sell it at roughly what, in 800-900 rupees ka premium you sold this, and that 800-900 rupees ka premium has now vanished completely.
And everything started coming out.
Right after. So the timing is impeccable. I mean, also, right when the RBI has come out with a notification saying that, boss, your CEO is not getting more than 1 year. That is also important timing, because this is coming literally a day after. So Friday ko aaya tha RBI's announcement. Now Monday you've come out to the market and bola ki, acha, there is a gap in our book. Sorry. I mean, it's just too curious.
Too curious.
And it's something that's happened before, right? This is not the first big shake-up that's happened 2022, 2018.
IndusInd has repeatedly, and especially under Sumant Katwalia, has faced a lot of issues. So, I mean, the fact is that he was a COVID-era CEO, right? Like, he took over and then immediately after that COVID hit. So, at least the initial part of that issue you could discount for saying that the macroeconomics were not so good. But then uske baad kya? Allegations of some corporate governance issues at the microfinance division that the bank wished away. They said कि नहीं है, ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं है. Then the people you appointed to run the microfinance division left you and joined a competitor, and you are finding out from a press release that these people have gone and joined, right? चलो वो भी छोड़ देते हैं. Then again now again when the CFO quits just days before the third quarter number come out. You also see the microfinance book now, after the entire industry is under so much stress, you are probably the worst hit amongst all the banks. So, if you're going to continuously be at the receiving end of stress, then, you know, at some point in time, people have to say, I can't keep discounting this. And probably what the RBI is saying, I can't keep defending a CEO who's at the helm.
And what happens with because I think we mentioned yesterday something on promoter pledge. What happens with that? Because wouldn't that have been activated when the stock price fell below 900 or something like that? Is the
yeah, but I'm not entirely sure about the promoter pledge bit, but I think the promoter did come out on media platforms and said that if the bank needs more money, if they want to be capitalized, we are willing to provide. Now they are sitting at 16.5%, right? So there's no real need for capital at this point in time. Achha, by the way, just so we are on this platform and for our viewers to understand this better, there have been a lot of questions that have come out about deposit हमको रखना चाहिए नहीं रखना चाहिए. Let me be categorical. There is no issue with the bank's financial position at this point in time. We are not saying that the bank is in dire straits. We are not. We are saying that there are some certain things that have happened which are questionable and which should not have happened. That is completely different from saying कि बैंक को बहुत बड़ा pressure आने वाला. ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं है. If you have deposits in IndusInd Bank, there is no need to fear. Nothing is going to happen to deposits. Nothing is going to happen to the bank. Probably the issue is with certain controls within the bank, and the RBI is there to address that. But as a bank, as an institution, IndusInd Bank is completely fine. Please do not worry about your deposits.
Chalo, that is good to know.
Yes.
Good to know,
Are you IndusInd Bank holder?
No, I'm not a holder.
Okay, great. Okay, so that's with regards to IndusInd Bank. We've discussed IT, IndusInd Bank. Another big news was Tata Motors.
Tata Motors.
By the way, likes, because we have about 10 minutes and we'd like to take a couple of questions. Puneet, very quickly, Tata Motors.
So they have mentioned on their, so they met brokerages yesterday, and one of the key takeaways from me specifically was that they've affirmed their guidance for JLR. They mentioned that it will have 8.5% EBIT this means that Q4 they will have to do a 10% EBIT on this particular business. That's something they've not done over the last 3 to 4 quarters. So it's going to be a steep target, but they mention, and I think that will be driven a lot by North America. The sales there have been doing well. So I think that's going to be one aspect which has been doing well. They've said that China is challenged, but not as much for them versus the competitors. So they've reduced the retail sales outlet, but I think they see that is controllable for them more compared to their peers. So I think JLR was the major issue. I think we saw the valuation currently at about 1.2 times EV per EBITDA. That used to be 2.5 times. So definitely the pressure there. But most brokerages, I think one interesting one was ICICI. They feel that they can do it in Q4 after the affirmation, and they've upgraded the stock today. They see a target price of 831. I think one of the key ones was that. But what's very interesting apart from that is the India business. That's not been doing well on the car side. And they say that they will reposition the Curve model, which has not been doing well since launch.
Right.
They'll reposition the Altroz model. And I think that while we need some more clarity on what they mean by reposition, because the product is out there in both electric and ICE, I think they've realized that competitors like Mahindra have a way ahead of them in this particular space, and they will have to really put their teeth in the ground and go ahead with more further launches. So it's expected to, it could be a bottom, and we discussed that with Harsh Sajid sir also. But the sales growth hasn't been there in this year, and it's a very disappointing year for the company as a whole. So next year, there are a lot of big positives to look at. The CV business expected to come back. Passenger vehicles, they are looking at repositioning key models that have not worked. JLR is expected to do well in Q4. Demerger in 6 months. We should get an update by July. But a lot of things to watch out for in terms of Tata Motors. Valuation differences there with Mahindra. So it could be a very interesting play going forward.
Ye Curve that was their premium offering.
Premium offering. So price at around 18 lakhs, but it doesn't seem to have hit the nail on the head, and it's been a model that's, and with car makers, that's a very big concern. They take 3 to 4 years to develop the model, and if it doesn't work in the first 6 months, it's a huge disappointment because a lot of expectations was built on that platform. But with the way Mahindra has come out with both EV models, and I think it's challenged everybody, but Tata Motors specifically because it's like the same price point. With Maruti, they did have the other options, the small car segment, they are expecting it to do well. Brezza and all, they're expecting to do well, but yeah, I think with Mahindra, I think the straight comparison goes to Tata Motors. And
how much have they been outselling?
I think Mahindra has been growing at 20% at least for the first half.
Okay.
When you see 9 months, they've grown, for 11 months, they've grown at 20%. Tata Motors has grown by 1%.
Okay, so
it's
yeah,
it's a huge
outselling is probably
and while the industry also has been suffering, like Maruti's are I think 6%.
Yeah.
I think in a market that's slow, 6% seems decent. Hyundai is at minus 2%. So it's a very difficult market. Mahindra's in its own stratosphere, but players like Maruti have been able to sell some out more. But Tata Motors in this aspect has had difficulty. But a lot of positives to go into the next fiscal year specifically.
Let's wait and watch. Okay, let's take some questions then maybe.
Yeah.
One of the questions is, which cyclical sector, Abhiraj is asking, which cyclical sector or theme do you think could be on a cusp of an uptrend? Abhiraj, we will drop this interview, Kenneth Andrade's conversation today.
Yeah.
It happened on India Market Open today. He's spoken a lot about cyclical movers over the course of the next 1, 2, 3, 5, until maybe 5 years as well. So that's a very good one for you to get your answers. So try and urge you to try and hear that. Sekon is asking, so Starlink 2 is finally entering the Indian market in a tie-up with Bharti and Jio. What can be the potential impact on Indus Towers business on both short and the long
Very good question.
term? Now, yeah, Starlink expensive.
Yeah.
आप लोगे, Vishy लोगे, शायद. You are rich people.
Rich people.
I will not. Mango people.
Yeah.
So therefore, Indus Tower is mass market,
Mass
etc.
market,
So
yes.
therefore, might stay. I mean, you never know. I mean, and become cheap now with this fall. So who knows? There might be people. I'd love to know the brokerage notes tomorrow.
Yeah.
And what they come out with on Indus Tower. Is this something that they see is a buy or no? So that is one thing that certainly we watch out for. Okay. We need to. So yeah, the answer is maybe, and we'll try and talk to the analysts today at 2 o'clock on India Market Close about whether this really disrupts the space and particularly Indus Towers, or is this one more addition. I mean, it's a vast country. I don't think Starlink आके बाकी सबका धंधा बंद कर देगा. वो तो शायद नहीं होने वाला.
नहीं होने वाला है, yeah.
Airtel owns a significant stake in Indus Towers as well. So
Yeah, I mean, if Indus is going to suffer, then
Suffer,
yeah,
yes.
So
Yeah.
one of Starlink's partners, yeah.
Okay. Guys, maybe you try and take one or two more questions if you guys can.
Yeah.
I'll have to bounce because I just have to go and talk about
Yeah.
the mutual fund numbers. We haven't spoken about this, but very quickly
Yeah.
to our viewers, keep that number in mind,
Yeah.
because the Amphi data shows that the inflows dipped 26% month on month.
Hmm.
It's a very sharp drop that has come into mutual fund inflows, which is not a pretty thing.
Yeah, I mean, so this is coming on the back of all of the market turmoil you've seen in the last
I would
2 months,
suspect,
right?
yes.
So, yeah.
I think a lesser fall compared to like in large cap specifically. I think 2,800 crores odd, but yeah, still a fall.
Yeah, still a fall nevertheless. And across the board, you've seen
Yeah.
falls. So,
Yeah.
by the way, the AUM is down also because the Nifty fell 6% in
Right,
February.
right.
But and even if you account for 28 days, the
Yeah.
26% fall in equity-linked funds doesn't account for the 3 lost days. So,
Yeah.
certainly a problem.
Certainly, yeah.
But
Yeah.
maybe there are a couple of other
Yeah.
questions before you wrap
Yeah,
up, guys.
maybe
Okay,
you wanna
I'll see you
check
guys.
some
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Niraj.
One quick question on Barun Mukherjee is asking, among these three sectors, wealth management, asset management and RTA, which one sector is promising for the long-term investment? I'll get to it. I think wealth management as a space to me is very interesting. I think Motilal Oswal also has a very big wealth division, and that's been driving the valuation of the stock as well. We've seen 361 WAM also come out with a lot of good updates in this particular year. They've also acquired the securities division of BNK. So that as a business for wealth management is expected to go upwards from here itself. So a very interesting space to watch out for. Some correction seen in those stocks, and while there was some overvaluation, I think that has been corrected, but be very selective with those stocks because we've seen a very sharp run up over the last couple of years, specifically in all the capital marketplace. But definitely a very interesting one. If you have any inputs on,
I mean,
on
so
this one, yeah.
all that I know of at this point in time is the fact that wealth management is going to be the next big business. Your banks, domestic banks, as well as your foreign banks in India are following. So they are seeing that opportunity because they're seeing that the rise of the affluent and the mega affluent and then the HNI segment of the population. So obviously, all of those banks are going to chase that customer base, try and grow their business. In simple terms, right now, what the average customers get is some kind of a relationship manager, right? But this will be somebody who's slightly more engaged, slightly more focused on what you need for your portfolio because your portfolios are growing. And banks really want to take on that. So the companies that you spoke about and their business offerings aside, I also want to say that for the broader financial system also is the next big light. Yeah.
And asset management will be interesting space to watch out for because I think Niraj just spoke about the inflow part, but definitely one. But viewers, with that, I think because we started a bit late, shorter duration conversation today, but stay tuned to our channel. Please mention your questions. We'll take any which we missed today, and we'll see you at the same time tomorrow. Thanks so much for tuning in.